Hi, this is Bob Kelley with Hepure. I hope you are enjoying this virtual conference and that you are staying healthy and safe. After 30 years of designing and recommending chemistries for in situ remediation, a question I often get is, how will I know if my remediation solution is working? Or what kind of performance monitoring plan should I have in place? But before I talk about that, I usually like to get an idea of the best practices used around generating the data that we used to create that remedial design. Um, it's difficult in our business to have statistically significant data, but as much as possible, we should have the most precise and accurate data that we can generate. We should try to eliminate conformational bias, not throw things out as outliers without an actual criteria in place to do that. We need to generate a conceptual site model, knowing that a lot of our data is probably incomplete or maybe even incorrect. And so that data conceptual site model needs to be dynamic. And as we get more data updated, a lot of times as people move into the remediation phase, they think that their site characterization is over. And I think that it should continue. And in fact, the best performance monitoring plan that you could have in place is to continue your site characterization sampling that you've already have in place for quarterly monitoring, that sort of thing. And maybe even adding an extra well or more samples or another analysis so that you can see what's going on with your remediation phase and continually characterize the site. Most importantly, you need to know what your uncertainty is. Most of the packages nowadays that generate plumes can also generate an uncertainty plume in which you can identify where your data gaps are, where in the parts of your site that you really don't have a good understanding of. So that's important as we move forward in any kind of performance monitoring plan. To create this plan, you need to understand the basic chemistry that you're trying to promote. You need to make sure you have the right reaction conditions, including temperature and pH. You need to make sure you have a sufficient amount of reactant or amendment to degrade the contaminant of concern. And you need to make sure that this amendment and the reaction, chemical reaction, is occurring long enough for the degradation to occur. In practice, it's the old contact, contact, contact. You need to be able to add enough of the material into the ground to achieve the distribution that you need or radius of influence that you need to have contact with the contaminant of concern. And you need to design your monitoring plan so that you can verify that you have the right concentration of the amendment and the right distribution. So there are specific performance monitoring indicators that you can use for amendments used in situ remediation. Permanganate being a purple solution is a great tracer or indicator of where the permanganate is. So you can easily see it as either purple or pink water in your monitoring wells. Persulfate has electrical conductivity increases as well as the byproduct of sulfate, and sometimes you can see some pH changes. ZVI, again, if you're looking at conformational borings where you actually take samples, you can pull that ZVI back out and see what your radius of influence is. But also in groundwater quality, you'll see some ORP changes right away. Being a highly exothermic reaction, hydrogen peroxide can indicate where it is just by the temperature increase in the groundwater and on there. As I said a little bit there, the use of tracers and conformational borings to actually take samples of the treatment area to make sure that you've gotten the kind of radius of influence and distribution you look for, I think is always something, if it can be fit into the budget, or maybe in the initial part or a pilot study, that you're doing in the field should be included as much as possible. In real life, your data is going to look something like this, with a graph of the concentration versus time being somewhat scattered. And if you understand the precision and accuracy, the data gaps associated with your site, you can confidently, or at least more confidently, predict if you are going in the right direction with your remediation. Once you have your performance monitoring plan in place, you need to think about a contingency plan, especially if you're not getting the kind of reductions that you expected. This diagram shows a concentration versus time curve in the green. If the remediation proceeds along that line, then no problem. But if, as the dotted line shows, it starts to stray or lag as the years go on and it gets into the yellow zone or red zone, you need to have a contingency plan that can help you reach the goal that you're trying to get on the site. And this could be more amendment or a different amendment or a different procedure. But you need to have that contingency plan before you move forward.